Chris Newman went with Senator Van Hollen to El Salvador. He's the legal director of the National Day Labor Organizing Network. He's representing the family of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and he joins me now. It's good to have you on the program. I know that you weren't at the meeting itself between Mr. Abrego Garcia and the senator, but you were down there, you traveled down there with the senator. First, what was it like, your interface with the government of El Salvador as you were alongside the senator?
Well, first, Chris, thanks so much for having me on the show. I can tell you that I've been traveling to El Salvador for years, and this is the first time that I felt fear in all of my time there, and particularly fear of Bukele's government. I think the single most important thing that happened was exactly as you said, the bravery and the action that Senator Van Hollen took in actually physically going to CICOT to try to demand access to Kilmar as is required by international law and human rights. The one little quibble I would have with the way you characterized it is I wouldn't say that it's the single best act of resistance. I would say maybe it's the second best act of resistance behind Kilmar himself. And the reason I say that is because Kilmar is exhibiting courage that I think we're all drawing from. And he's not just trying to liberate himself, he's trying to defend the Constitution for all of us. And so I think the senator and I sort of summoned the courage that Kilmar, his wife Jennifer, and his mother Cecilia have shown in standing up to what is really a turning point where the country is not just on the brink of fascism, but we've entered and crossed the Rubicon.
My understanding is that you were with the senator when he attempted to go into CICOT and were barred from that, despite the fact that multiple Republican members of Congress had been escorted through earlier. Can you tell me about what happened there?
Yeah, I've been to CICOT before. I was actually there when they first opened it, so I was familiar with the area. The senator and I were detained by military police with M16s, and we weren't permitted. It was sort of the equivalent of like being stopped on the 10 freeway in Los Angeles, and we were turned away. Hundreds of other cars passed by either way on the road to San Vicente, but we were told that, and they were a little bit sort of oblique in how they characterized it, but essentially they said we weren't allowed to go further under the orders of President Bukele himself.
My understanding is that you were advised to leave earlier than the senator, and there was some concern. I mean, I think some people had some concern when the senator said he was going to go down about his own personal safety, about the legal regime down there, but that you were advised to leave for out of caution about your own legal status down there.
Yeah, I talked to Congressman Jim McGovern before, who is like a hero of mine because he's led delegations to El Salvador for decades. And he told me, and I hope it's not a transgression for sharing, that this is the first time that if something were to happen while people are down there, the U.S. government is not going to help us. And so when, I was traveling with Senator Van Hollen, well, first, I should say, I made a commitment to Cecilia and to Jennifer that I would do everything that I could to make sure that Kilmar was alive, to make sure that he was safe, and to make sure that he had access to counsel. But I made a commitment to my partner that I wouldn't go to that prison unless I was standing with somebody who was essentially unarrestable. And that was, in this case, Senator Van Hollen. When he left and we sort of parted ways at the hotel, that was the first moment actually that I felt afraid. I was by myself. I was away from my family in another country, and for a couple of moments I was worried about whether I would be able to freely go home and see them.
I'm gonna give you a characterization that Stephen Miller gave of your client, and I'm not going to play the tape because I honestly I think it's sort of too defamatory. But because you are representing the family and his wife, he referred to him as a criminal, wife-beating, terrorist, illegal alien. And as a lawyer for the family, for him and for his wife, I'd like to hear your response to that.
I mean, as you say, this is, I mean, racist defamation coming from the most powerful office in the country or in the world, from somebody who I think sits higher on Trump's organizational chart than the vice president himself. But they're falsehoods, and all we ask is that Kilmar be able to defend himself in court and in the court of public opinion. Kilmar is not a gang member; he's a union member. He's not a terrorist. He's in fact a political prisoner. He's not a violent person. He's a loving father. And unfortunately, the Trump administration is administering justice and trying to arrogate power as if this was an episode of, like a dystopian episode of like The Black Mirror and The Apprentice. They're staging things. They're, engaging in a campaign of lies. And I think it's distorting the discussion. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to your viewers. I wish a similar invitation would be extended from Fox News and OAN and the other news agency, or I don't even, news agency is probably the wrong way to describe it, but the people who are amplifying all of these lies and defamatory lies about Kilmar and his family.
The White House today, through several social media accounts, basically said that he's never coming back. I think there's a post where they edited a New York Times headline. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, said something similar. Now, the Supreme Court has ordered the government to facilitate his return. That's not ambiguous. They said he's never coming back. Do you think that's sending a message to the Supreme Court that they don't care what the Supreme Court says?
Yeah, I'm not counsel on the litigation. He's represented by some of the best lawyers that I know. And I don't want to comment on that litigation specifically. But what I will comment on is, we're grateful that President Trump doesn't get to have the last word in this conversation, in this matter. He might think he does. He might try to arrogate power. Like I said, I think there are others like, the eminent Professor Chemerinsky who have argued, I think, correctly, that we are currently amid a constitutional crisis. We've gone past that Rubicon, but it's not up for Trump to say. We are fighting first and foremost for Kilmar's safety, secondly for his due process, and third for his peaceful return to his family, to his community, and to his union brothers and sisters.
All right, Chris Newman, who's an attorney for the family of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is still detained in El Salvador. Thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it.